When you all are finishing recreating, we'll start the meeting. Good morning. Welcome to the Board of Supervisors. Please stand and join us in the pledge. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm pulling item 8. Are there any items that the public, board, or staff would like pulled? May I have a motion? 9.
I'll move the balance of the consent agenda, Madam Chair.
I will second it, Madam Chair.
That sounds so good. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 5 vote. Thank you. Item 8, please.
Good morning, Shirley Ryan, County Administrative Office. There was a typo that I noticed this morning on attachment B of the technical adjustments. It just has to do with the debt service. On the third line, it should have been 1051, 1051, and 1051, not 1050.
I'm trying to follow you. It's on attachment.
Attachment B, under the debt service for the GO bond. The fund on the first 2 lines reads 1050, the third line reads 1051, and all 3 lines should read 1051.
I would move this as corrected. There's no further discussion.
Any further discussion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 5 vote. Thank you. Item 9. Well, just saying, go ahead. Mr. Platt, could you please ask your question?
I'd like to know how much and from where to what.
We don't know. That's the point of it.
How much what?
Money. It says funds, so I assume that's...
Well, we don't know. This is saying if something's left over. I mean,
Right.
we don't know at this point.
That's correct. At this point in time, the projects have been allocated, the funds have been allocated to different projects. However, if in the future a project costs less than what was allocated, the remaining funds could be reallocated to another existing project. And it just gives, instead of having to come back to the board to reallocate a $500 or $1,000 or $2,000 from one project to the other, it's upon the recommendation, the CAO would have the authority to authorize that upon the recommendation of the Parks and Rec Commission and the affected district supervisor.
You have a look on your face that you don't understand what she said.
No, I understood exactly what she says. It just seems like there's taxpayers' money being thrown all around the place. And it's getting less and less of the taxpayers saying where the money's going.
Mr. Clapp?
Oh, go ahead.
You're aware of the sensitivity of the time frame on these funds. And if a project isn't completed by a certain date, then it kind of falls off the edge. So there's a possibility that there might be some that are theoretically in the pipeline presently that it's come to our attention that there's a very distinct possibility that they're at risk for losing the whole funding. So if we can identify some other place, some other part of some other project within the county where that money could be taken from over here where it's going to get lost and used over here where it can be used in a timely manner, where we're trying to create the opportunity for us to make that decision quickly. It's not that we're throwing money around. We're just trying to make sure that we adequately use the $1.2 million that we have been trying to dispense for the last several years.
Okay, just say, Clyde, if you have things to say, could you please come up to the mic? I mean, this is one of those things that's clear to us, but it's not clear
I
to
think
you.
you guys understood my question, and I think you answered it quite eloquent. But it's just that, there's so much stuff that goes from the regular agenda to, like 12 items or 11 items now. It's getting a lot, and there's always money involved in it. And it's just like a spam, all of us, there's thousands of dollars gone. And I just, like to look, see, where is it going, why is it going? And so it's just a simple question. It's not like I'm criticizing you guys for your job, and I understand exactly, what you're doing. It's just that, there's money's going, and it's just that we're broke, and it's just something that's I was just sort of curious to see.
No, it's a good,
Thank you.
well-taken comment. Thank you.
Thanks, Clyde.
Just don't say something. Okay. All right. May I have a motion on number 9, please?
So moved, Madam Chair.
As long as the money goes to District 3, I'll take the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That comment was not part of the motion.
I wanted to clarify that. If it's not, then I'll vote for it.
Thank you. Passes on a 5-0, Carol. Did you get that? Okay. We won't stand in recess. I'd like to move to public comments, if anyone has anything to say that's not on the agenda.
Good morning, Board. John Ellis Arnold. Let me pass these out. I'm here today to notify the Board that I have formally filed a complaint with the Fair Political Practice Commission on the matter of Leslie K. Davis and my allegations that she's committed tax fraud. I base my allegations on public records and on what I think is clear law. Government Code Section 87100, no public official at any level of state or local government shall participate in making, or in any way attempt to use his official position to influence a governmental decision in which he knows or has reason to know has a financial interest. Taking no action can influence a governmental decision. Davis was a county employee in the assessor's office when she bought her property. Davis knows she paid $420,000 for her property. This is confirmed by the recorded grant deed document transfer tax, which by county code is based upon the purchase price of the real estate only. Davis knows she bought her property in 2004 when the real estate market was at the beginning of the largest market value increase in our history. Davis knows her base year value assessment is $380,000, $40,000 less than her purchase price. Davis is now the chief property tax enforcement officer of this county. Evidence Code 664 states it is presumed that official duty has regularly been performed. Revenue Taxation Code 110A states full cash value. Fair market value means the amount of cash or its equivalent that property would bring if exposed for sale in an open market, such as if each the buyer and the seller had brokers representing their individual interests. Revenue Taxation Code 110B tells Davis, the assessor, and every taxpayer in this state, for the purpose of determining the full cash value or fair market value of real property being appraised upon purchase, full cash value or fair market value is the purchase price paid in the transaction, unless it is established by preponderance of evidence that the real property would not have transferred for that purchase price in an open market transaction. Davis knows that when she bought her property, she had a realtor broker representing her, and that the seller had a realtor broker representing the seller. Davis knows her real property purchase was an open market transaction. Davis knows the Revenue Taxation Code does not allow the assessor to establish fair market value. The open market establishes fair market value. Davis knows her property purchase established fair market value. Davis knows this is the essence of Prop 13. County Council I requested public records. County Council has confirmed Davis never filed an application for equalization and that no stipulation to reduce her base year value exists between the assessor and Davis. The public record clearly shows that Davis, a county employee, has committed tax fraud. Davis, the chief property tax enforcement officer of this county's failure to admit to the above facts of public record is an act of deceit against the public. Government Code Section 25303, the Board of Supervisors shall supervise the official conduct of all county officers, and particularly insofar as the functions and duties of such county officers relate to assessing, collecting, safekeeping, management, or the disbursement of public funds. This board has a duty to act upon these facts in the law now. Davis needs to be put on immediate administrative leave pending a full investigation. This board did not support Trinitas because Trinitas did not follow the rules. And this county does not need another Stephanie Marino incident. Now, I did not say that to inflame the argument. It's the truth. And I am sending notice of this complaint to the Attorney General and the district attorney, local district attorney. Thank you.
Your comments have been duly noted, Mr. Ellis.
Madam Chair, honorable members of the board, Leslie Davis. I am here today more as a private citizen than your acting assessor. However, let's not lose sight of the fact that I do know the laws of which I'm about to speak. A little over 2 weeks ago, I think it was 3 weeks ago, John Ellis and Joe Kelly began a defamation campaign against me and employees of the assessor's office, both past and present.
And the board. So
that's for you to talk about, not for me. When they didn't get what they wanted, they escalated from their original request that the board put me on administrative leave to the absolute ludicrous threat of a recall election. At the time of their original comments before this board, I talked openly to 3 different reporters about those allegations, 2 of whom are in the room today. The board referred the matter to county council and then reported there was no foundation for those allegations. That wasn't good enough for them, and Mr. Ellis's smear campaign continues. I believe the taxpayers and the voters deserve the truth. My husband and I purchased our home in October 2004. It was assessed for less than the purchase price. The purchase price did include personal property. Apparently, Mr. Ellis considers himself to be quite the expert on what constitutes documentary transfer tax. We may have overpaid. The appraiser who valued the property for property tax purposes used 2 approaches to value in determining the assessed value of the property. I did not request any special treatment. I did not request a review of the assessment, and I did not file an assessment appeal. At the time of our purchase, I was the assessment standards analyst in the assessor's office. No one in the office reported to me, and I had no authority over any staff. In fact, I did not make any employment decisions affecting the staff. I'm pleased that I was subsequently promoted to assistant assessor and that I now have the honor of serving as your acting assessor. But I do not mistake the authority that I have now with the reality that existed in 2004. My father was a career Marine. If there's anything I learned as a military brat, it is that there is a chain of command. The authority vests in the department head. At the time of our purchase, I was not the assessor. I was not the assistant assessor. I was not the chief appraiser, and I was not the supervising appraiser. Mr. Ellis and Kelly have delusions of competence as it relates to the Revenue and Taxation Code. Their allegations are proof positive that they do not understand the law as it relates to the operation of an assessor's office. In Mr. Ellis's first diatribe, he claimed that Tax Rule 305.5C established a conclusive presumption that the sale price is base year value. That is not correct. Mr. Ellis is confusing the rule that applies to decisions following an appeal. Again, that's not the case here. The State Board of Equalization is the agency with oversight responsibility of an assessor's office. The board adopts the property tax rules, and the board audits county assessor's offices. We are in the midst of such an audit, and the first thing they look at is property owned by the assessor and the assessor's staff. According to the board rules, the assessor is required to determine the assessed value of real property and is not bound by the purchase price if the market value deviates from that price by more than 5%. The numbers he's given to you demonstrate the assessed value that was enrolled differed from the purchase price by almost 10%. The office acted in consistence with the code, and it has already been reviewed by the state. Mr. Ellis's second claim is that my property was, and I quote, one of the very few properties in Calaveras County to receive a Prop 8 adjustment, end quote, during the 2008 calendar year. Nothing could be further from the truth. When we completed the 2008 assessment roll, 5,244 properties had been adjusted downward due to declining market conditions. In other words, we reduced the value of more than 11.6% of all parcels in the county, and most of the parcels where we reduced the value are in the area where I live in West County. Finally, Mr. Ellis claims my property is assessed less than 7 of my 8 adjacent neighbors. Again, he failed to look at the data that is public. 3 of my neighbors have lower values than my husband and I. And every one of those neighbors that he points to have homes that are larger and garages that are larger than ours. Mr. Ellis contends that my actions constitute a violation of public trust. I ask, what actions? Like many property owners, I asked about my assessed value. I asked how it was determined, and I was told that an appraisal was performed. I believe property owners have a right to question their assessed value. I believe they have a right to file an appeal if they disagree with the assessed value. That value conclusion established by the assessor. I do not believe that anyone, including myself, has an obligation to come say, tax me higher. There has been no deceit, and there has been no conflict of interest. Now, I got to tell you, my first reaction to their diatribe was to make copies of my file available, but that will not happen. Mr. Ellis and Mr. Kelly have both proven to me their litigious nature, and Mr. Ellis put it right out there for you again today. Their vicious and unfounded comments and their past action have put me on alert. I will not put my husband and I in harm's way. It would appear that running for office has been sufficient to do that. Thank you for your time.
Your comments have been noted. Thank you. Is there anyone else who has a comment they'd like to address to the board, not on the agenda? Ms.
Good morning. My name is Les Martin, Valley Springs, California. This is going to be real quick, kind of a concern I had. A couple of weeks ago, I read the minutes of the Board of Supervisors meeting, and it appears that a motion was made by CalWorks and approved to essentially write off in excess of $250,000 of bad debt owed the county of Calaveras from as far back as 1986 for fees not recovered by those who had received CalWorks assistance and are now assumed to be gainfully employed and are nowhere to be found to repay these debts. I'm shocked that the county can be so cavalier in the dismissal of such debts, and given that some date back over 25 years, why so long? Is this the way private business operates? Not the private businesses I was involved in. It's interesting to me that recently the country was shocked by the BSE epidemic, the bovine spongiform encephalitis, or mad cow disease. It's quite scary, but the country was able to trace the roots to some obscure cow in Podunk City somewhere. But when it comes to finding a deadbeat, alas, we're impotent. Now our county, state, and country cannot trace some of these people, and even though they should have driver's licenses, date of birth, social security numbers, addresses, and gosh, probably even vote. My concern is Calaveras County is one of the smallest counties, 58 counties in California, and this cavalier method of dismissal of debts is an example of what's going on in this state, or for that matter within this country. No wonder we're in such a fiscal problem. Let's get real. In my humble opinion, I feel that CalWorks should bring before the Board of Supervisors a recommendation in view of the fact that neither they nor the county sheriff are able to collect these true debts, that they turn the debts over to a countrywide collection agency for a percentage of fees recovered. Embrace private enterprise, employ the collection agencies, and bring some common sense to this welfare system rather than just sweeping bad decisions under the rug. Thank you very much.
Mr. Martin, I will tell you it was not a cavalier matter. On behalf of this board, we questioned it in great detail. I don't know if you read the staff report. Carol, could you please send Mr. Martin a copy of the staff report from CalWorks? Everything you said, we totally understand, we totally question. It was not something that we just approved without any discussion whatsoever. We had great concern, and some of the things you've talked about have been done. If you have any more specific questions, I can have the department head, Mary Sawicki, call you, but we totally understand.
Thank you so very much, Chair.
You're welcome.
I
All right,
recall...
everybody wants to talk to you, Les. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Russ.
Well, like you, I recall the extensive discussion that we had about that, but the one question that I neglected to ask Ms. Sawicki was, it was quite obvious that you reach a point of diminishing returns when you're trying to use your own staff to collect these questionable accounts or the indebtedness, but I didn't ask the question at the time, perhaps I should have, if an attempt had been made to enlist the aid of a commercial collection agency.
To your question, the answer is no, we did not use a collection agency. We signed up, as I said, for the tax intercept program. We were one of 11 counties that had not participated prior to my coming, and so we have been utilizing the tax intercept. There is a condition on the tax intercept program. You have to try and attempt to notify the individual that you will be intercepting their tax return. The problem with that is on the list, and remember, we're going back over 24 years, way before my time. We did not have a way of or a mechanism of contacting anyone. We utilized 4 data banks. You know, they're the credit report banks, various properties, Social Security, all sorts of data banks that we have available to us for fraud efforts through our fraud investigator, and we did not have any way of even locating someone. So the bottom line of it is we created the list for you after many of them with no contact, some up to 24 years. And so that's what we utilize so far to date. If you'd like, we can certainly, and remember also 68 individuals are deceased on that list. And so there's no way of finding, shall I say, anything further as far as property or liens or whatever. But if you want, we can go ahead and do that as well.
Ms. Sawicki, could you just identify yourself?
Sure. Mary Sawicki, Director of Calaveras Works and Human Services.
Well, I don't know whether our past actions has precluded the ability for some commercial collection agency to pursue that, but I am not unsensitive to Mr. Martin's concerns here. If it's not going to cost the county any money, and there's a possibility we could get back 30 cents on the dollar, it would be worth asking somebody if they're interested in pursuing it. So
we could go ahead and pursue that if you like.
Steve?
We still have future collections. Remember, we're still trying to collect about, I think it's about $344,000 right now, which we are presently having discussions with every individual we can find.
I'd like to give my take on this subject because I think that the issue raised is one that keeps coming up in the public discourse. People say, well, why doesn't government run like a business? And somehow that's going to produce a magical result here. But in this particular case, government was running like a business. Sawicki came to us saying it is costing us more money to try to retrieve this pittance from the poorest of the poor, the most dislocated people, folks who have spread to 60, some of which were dead, a number of others having disappeared off the face of the earth, homeless and in other parts of the world and the country. And that after 24 years, up to 24 years of trying to pull this back, that this was tougher than getting blood from a rock. And that this was a constituency that was, as you look at the demographics and the economic capabilities, for the most part, was not likely to be cost-effective. Cost-effectiveness, doing cost-benefit analysis, is the fundamentals of American capitalism. You had to figure out what your strategy is, whether you're going to stay afloat and be able to fund what your product or service is versus going bankrupt. In this particular case, the pursuit of this money for that constituency by the staff at its current cost, or for that matter, any other agency, would have been counterproductive, and that was the finding of this board, and we voted accordingly. So why this would come up in the way of fiscal responsibility is baffling to me. We're not thinking of taxpayer dollars. Quite the contrary. We owe the citizens smart decisions based on a cost-benefit analysis, and this particular staff person right before you is, since her arrival here, done all kinds of implementation of efficiencies and effective ways of accounting for this and many other monies. And this was one piece that was judged to be a net loss. It's not just a diminishing returns. This was a net loss equation, and that's why we voted the way we did.
Okay.
I'd like to say two other things that I think we would have to take a look at. The first, of course, is the issue of confidentiality, and that, of course, would have to be looked at by county council if we could even consider any type of recovery agency. The second thing is some of the individuals are out of state. There is no technical legal recourse that we have on some of those issues as far as tax intercept, but we are doing everything in our power. We're contacting them and asking them to repay voluntarily.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Sawicki.
I have a comment.
Oh, Tom.
Let me just sort of reiterate a little bit, expand on what Steve said. I mean, the people coming in and getting this money obviously don't have much of anything, or they wouldn't be eligible for the money. So you're sort of trying to, squeeze blood out of a turnip. We had the same discussion back when the courts were under the government, and we had all this hundreds of thousands of dollars in uncollected court fines. And that's when the county used to get part of the court fines. And we did just what Les suggested. We hired a collection agency, and we collected a little bit, but it wasn't a lot. And court fines, if you have a DUI or something, you can be a rich kid just as well as you can be a poor kid. But the simple reality is most of the people that had money paid the fines, and most of the people that didn't have any money didn't pay the fines. And we had the courts, which basically said, that, hey, you're breaking the law by not paying this fine, and bad things can happen to you, which we don't have with the welfare department, and it was not very successful. I mean, we collected a little bit of money from the fines from some of the sort of middle class kids, but the poor people, they just don't have it. And what are you going to do? We don't have a debtor's prison. You don't go to jail in this country because you can't pay your bills, and And this would be 10 times worse than when we were going after court fines, and, we had a little more meat to threaten people with, and the courts were behind it and were very supportive of us doing this and the like, and it didn't generate a whole lot of money, and this, I think, would generate even much less. So that's my 2 cents worth on it.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything else they'd like to address to the board not on the agenda? There was something else because he talked about it.
Bonnie Newman from Double Springs. I had intended to come back this week and do an update on whatever I said last week, but a couple of things happened to me during the week that I thought I'd share with you that have really had an impact. I went to this union thing. I'm not real big on that stuff, but I went to this union thing because nobody else goes. And they had this announcement that first blew me away. They have replaced the national head of our union, this guy named Andy Stern, not Howard Stern, Andy Stern, with a woman. This is with a woman, and I don't know if it's the first national woman union leader or it's just our first national union leader, but this woman came from California Home Care Division, and she's a person. I mean, she's not a union thug or whatever my image was. I mean, this is... I was sitting there going, and something happened inside me, and I started crying, and what I felt was hope. Silly as it seems, I just had this, I was overcome with this. Anyway, okay, enough of that. We got all excited. We heard that old Arnold was doing a press conference at some building on Friday, and of course we knew what he was going to do to us. And so we just kind of spontaneously said, hey, let's go over there and tell that SOB what we think. So there was 350 home care workers, health care providers. They weren't all home care. There was long-term. We went over there and did a thing, shame on you, and that whole thing, and he left out the back door because all the press was on us now because we were out there. And through that, I felt that I wanted to come and ask the board to, I don't know the whereases or the whatnots or whatever that goes in a resolution, but we should send a message to Governor Arnold about what he's attempting to do to something that I have to tell you happened. Yesterday was my birthday. I turned 62. And I had this thought.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I swear I never believed I'd live to be 30. And I got to 30, and the next day it was 62. So I'm here, and I shouldn't be. I took so many risks. I hitchhiked through the 60s and 70s. I mean, I should not be here, but there's a reason. So in my mind, another story, my mom's money is gone. And I said, she brought me home from the hospital 62 years ago, had to change my diapers, listen to me squalling and yapping, and Sunday I had to bring her home. And it was a life-changing experience. I do this for somebody that I'm not related to, and I've been 24 hours responsible, and recently I've had assistance with another respite care worker who's able to take care of my full-time person. So I felt, until my mother's Medi-Cal comes through and all of that stuff, that I could take care of her needs because who else should we care for more than the people in our family? And so I brought her home on Sunday, and things went fairly well until about time to go to bed. Mom, why don't we go to the bathroom? I don't want to go to the bathroom. I said, you're going to be asleep now. She says, I don't have to go. Okay, so I put her in bed. I got up in the night. Mom, would you like to go to the bathroom? She says, no, I don't have to go to the bathroom. Leave me alone. Okay. So I got up in the morning. Mom, why don't we just go and see if you need to change your diaper this morning? Leave me alone. Get away from me. Okay, so I left her alone. I took my client to Lodi and back, and then I said, okay, I have to get her up now. And this woman's 5 feet tall. She weighs 100 pounds, and I'm sorry. Mom, we've got to get up and get to the bathroom. She turned into the most vile, vicious, ferocious person that fought me. And as I took her bedclothes off, everything was soaked. Everything she'd been in all night long. These are the people that lay in their own waste all night long, that need care because they're still here. Their minds are gone. Their psyches are gone. I think their souls are gone, but their bodies are still here. I did my best to get her cleaned, and she was fighting with me and screaming at me and cursing at me like it was, and I knew that the people that do this for their own family members are beyond saints. They have to do it 24/7, and they are beyond saints, something that I'm not. And I had to call the facility where I had just taken her out of and ask them if they could please take her back. All my savings, whatever it takes. I need somebody that can deal with this. And I felt like a total failure. I went down and I was just a mess. And they tried to reassure me, Bonnie, we call your mom the character builder. Are the character builder or the character wrecker? And they said, she's a handful. And I said, is that another name for a royal pain in the ass? And they said, Bonnie, beyond. And I said, I'm having a hard time dealing with this. And they say, we have 8-hour shifts, and then we go home, and somebody else takes over. And that's the difference between home care and facility care. Many more people involved because it is such an incredible, incredible profession. The home care people, that's why we're stroking out and having heart attacks and contemplating suicide and all those other things, is because it is, and it's never been called such, but it is a professional career that matches no other that I could imagine. And so I don't have my mom with me. I'm banking that the welfare system will come through, and she's in Amador County, so I'm not going to talk about the Calaveras welfare system, and maybe that's, thank God I don't have to do that, but it's just a matter of time, and I know she will be placed, but God bless those people that take on their own family members, because your heart's there, but it's unimaginable. It's unimaginable. And not in all cases we're talking about severe dementia and Alzheimer's and the chronic conditions that... Anyway, thank you for your time.
Bonnie, thank you for making it a real story for us. Steve.
Bonnie's story actually highlights a public policy issue here in the state of California. Over 50% of the home care providers in this state, unlike most other states in the country, are family providers. These are people who have a family member who has either become infirm or unable to care for themselves, had an accident creating a physical disability, or simply become too old to function for themselves. California, this was an important contribution to the disability rights movement, and it was incorporated into the California IHSS system. Current budget proposals before the legislature, promulgated by the governor in particular, and this is the third or fourth iteration of this, beat back a number of times, but this time with the budget crisis being what it is, the proposal is to eliminate the family provider portion of this, more than half the clients, more than half of the providers. Now, this would make sense if you were only trying to save money in one program. But when you look at the alternative, which means that these people would go into institutions, the cost is between 6 and 10 times more, depending on the institution, than it is to have people cared for in their own homes by people who love them. This is not just a single story. This is a story times 400,000 in the state of California. And it's important that people take a look at these budget decisions in the human terms that have just been presented.
Thank you. Does anyone else have an item they'd like to discuss that is not on the agenda? Okay. We'll move to review of correspondence and reports. What supervisor would like to go first? Mr. Tuffanelli. I did a nanosecond pause. Nobody spoke up.
Board responsibilities. Today at 4 o'clock I have a meeting in Planning Department with a group of people for the Valley Springs Community Plan update. I have Calaveras Mariposa Community Action Agency meeting on Friday at 10 a.m. in Coulterville. Tomorrow, if I'm not involved again in the Valley Springs Community Plan update, I'm going to drop by the Park and Recreation Commission meeting at 6 o'clock at 16 Main Street in San Andreas, which is Children's Protective Services building. They're going to be discussing on their agenda a soccer field that's in my district, so I would like to attend that. That's all I have for board appointments. I did attend several meetings in Washington, D.C. with CCWD and Supervisor Walensky. I did catch up with the contingency from the Sheriff's Department. I was able to attend a couple meetings with them at Senator Feinstein's office and Congressman Lundgren's office, going over the Tahoe Regional Interoperable Partnership, which is a JAP being formed by Washoe County in Nevada and Alpine County in California. It's one of the few interstate JAPs being formed, and Calaveras County will be joining that after the initial partnership is formed. The reason for it is a series of towers for microwave transmissions. It's a JAP, Joint Authority Partnership. And the reason the contingency was back there was a sheriff from Washoe County, sheriff from Alpine County, and Clay Hawkins and Captain Jim Macedo from Calaveras County was asking for federal funds in the neighborhood of 40 to 60 million to complete the building of the remaining 11 towers that need to be built. which would join Northern California and Northern Nevada, over 26 counties. And it's not only for police communications or law enforcement communications, but emergency services communications, public and private entities as far as broadband internet service would be on these towers. And the one, one of the main reasons that this is a very viable project is the fact that a lot of these Sierra counties like we have, and in northern Nevada, there's a lot of dead spots where there is no communication. And there's sometimes when you have catastrophes like wildfires, there is no communications for any of the emergency services in some of these very remote areas. The capabilities of this program would give complete communications at any point with any of these 26 counties. And at any time, if one of these transponders are down, the routing system allows for it to instantaneously find a different route between the 14 towers to make it for the communications to go through. And they would go from the coast all the way to Nevada and the Northern California and Northern Nevada area regions. And this includes, like I said, broadband on the private entity part of it, and all emergency and law enforcement communications. So I was able to go to 2 meetings with them. It was a great presentation. It was well done. The sheriff from Washoe County was the lead guy presenting it. Clay spoke. And the sheriff from Alpine County spoke. They all spoke in a very elegant way that drove the point home. And the facilitator that was from the Ferguson group did a great job in presenting it and getting us and them that contingency into the right doors and to the right people. I was very impressed with it. I think this is a project that's ready to go, and I think their chances for getting funding for it is very good. I also attended several meetings with CCWD and Mr. Walensky. We went to Senator Boxer's office. We went to Senator Feinstein's office. We went to Congressman Lundgren's office. We went to the United States Department of Agriculture office. We went to the Bureau of Reclamation's office. We went to the Corps of Engineers office. The main points that were being spoke of at these agencies was asking for funding for Cos Cove Creek to finish that reclamation, or excuse me,
feasibility.
Excuse me?
Feasibility.
Feasibility study, thank you.
Yeah,
The feasibility study that we're currently entailed in, and we're about halfway through right now. We were seeking additional funding from the federal level of about $200,000 to complete that study. Also, CCWD had several projects they were asking funding for. There's a series of 14 redwood water storage towers in the Arnold area and Murphy's area. They're looking for funding to replace those because of the highly volatile situation. If fire occurs, that those would be burnt and destroyed, and then water would not be available for a lot of people in those areas that they serve. They're looking to replace those with either a standard water tower or concrete type water facilities. They were looking for funding to bring water to the western portion of the county from Hogan Reservoir through a pipeline for raw water to service agriculture and for ground recharge for the aquifer down in that area down there. They were looking for a couple $1 million for that. They were also looking for funding for another project that had to do with their trying to move out of the existing building that they're in here in San Andreas. They're looking to move down the street to an existing building that's a larger facility and easier access than what they have now. They seem to have outgrown the buildings they are in. They were looking for a low-cost loan to do some renovations and purchase an existing building. I think the Carmen Group was involved in getting us into the proper people for those meetings, and I think the lady that was involved there was Mia. She was here and gave a presentation to the board during a study session. She spoke primarily most of the time, and she did a great job. She opened the doors up to the right people in the right places. She did a good presentation. The contingency that was there was Jeff Davison, Ed Patterson, and Don Stump. They spoke. They did a great job. I think there's funding available for some of those projects, and I think our chances of getting funding is very good because of the doors that were opened by the Carmen Group and Mia, and I look forward to seeing what happens here in the next 12 months as far as getting funding.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So following on that, we'll go to Steve, because he was there too.
I'll start with my board meetings this week. I have Calaveras Amador Consensus meeting tomorrow morning. In the afternoon, meeting with the Sierra Nevada Conservancy in Jackson on the Sustainable Sierra Forest Initiative. On Friday, I have the Calaveras Mariposa Community Action Agency meeting that Gary had described between 10 and 2. I have the Central Sierra Family Support meeting with JPA at 3:30 in the afternoon on the same Friday. On Monday, we have the multi-jurisdictional meeting at Mark Twain St. Joseph's. Speaking of the multi-jurisdictional meeting, one of the theories that's come out of that is that it would be more efficient if Calaveras County presented itself not in 10 different water agencies and not just with a county or a school district. Everybody seems to have representation, or trying to get some representation in decisions made in Sacramento and Washington, trying to get a return on our tax dollars. How we present ourselves has been inscrutable to the people we're intending to impress, and sometimes actually hard to fathom ourselves. We, for instance, put funds in from 3 different water agencies at one point for the same basic project separately, which was the subject of some discussion in Washington. So the idea that we would go with the CCWD and see the link between water and land use, and having the people responsible for land use, being the county, being there with the primary water agency, was actually somewhat unique in our history. And I thought the CCWD personnel were very pleased to have the county supporting their projects, and we were pleased to see some reciprocity in that regard. My hope is that we will not stop there, but instead of having 5 or 6 contracted groups, that we'll concentrate our effort, that Calaveras as a whole will present itself to Washington and Sacramento, and that will be more effective and have better results. I would also add that while I was at many of the things that Gary just enunciated, I also went to 2 meetings with Feinstein staff and a separate meeting with the USDA regarding the forest initiative, which is designed to replicate the Amador Calaveras Consensus and the CHIPS project throughout the Sierra. And the Sierra Nevada Conservancy is putting forth a proposal of that nature. The design would be, again, a concentration of resources, recognizing that the forests have how we handle the forest has something to do with the quality and quantity of water, the level of fire danger that our communities face, the kinds of sustainable economics projects that could commence in the Sierra, and putting people who have forest skills back to work in a wide range of stewardship activities, as well as restoration of Native American sites. And I won't go on, but there are a lot of things that happen in our forest, and we are not capitalizing on that or benefiting in the ways we should. And our forests are, excuse me, kind of going to hell in a handbasket while we do nothing. So the goal, excuse me, maybe I shouldn't be talking about this, I don't know. The goal is to get people back to work, doing the kinds of projects that we all can agree on, rather than spend our time litigating against one another on the things we disagree about in the forest. The expectation is that there will be an initiative reviewed by the Sierra Nevada Conservancy Board meeting on, this is a state agency responsible for watershed stewardship, the board meeting is on June 1st and 2nd, and out of that will come an area-wide, a Sierra-wide initiative that takes some of the lessons drawn from the Calaveras Amador project and tries to spread it through the Sierra. So looking forward to that meeting. And that's my report.
Okay. Tom?
I do not have anything to report to the board today, Madam Chair.
Steve? Russ?
Okay. Looking at my schedule for the rest of the week, I am pleased to report that I have no board responsibilities. So.
We're good.
All right.
So I can go out and put up some more signs.
That's it?
That's it. Oh, I
Putting that
did,
time up?
Yeah, I did want to mention that I really enjoyed going to the fair. There was a kind of a...
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
There was a measurable, palpable energy there this year that I hadn't seen before.
Tell me, what did you do at the fair?
What did I do at the fair? Well, I didn't win the $10,000.
But did you participate for an organization?
Oh yeah, I poured beer for the American Legion. Yeah.
VFW.
Or VFW, excuse me. Yeah.
So you were pouring beer. Did we get pictures of this? Did you have a shirt on and said?
Yeah, I was an Ovations employee for the evening. But and that was fun. I enjoyed it a lot, and I had the privilege of singing the national anthem before the huge crowd that was at the Destruction Derby on Sunday night. So that felt good again. So,
All right.
It's always fun to do that. Anyway.